Ever noticed how some people seem to light up every room they enter, effortlessly mingling and making friends? In the next 15 minutes, you're going to discover that winning at becoming social isn't about being born with a silver tongue or endless confidence. It's about transforming everyday awkwardness into genuine connection. This video will break down the challenges we all face when trying to be social, share funny real-life stories where I've fumbled my way through conversations, and reveal practical, step-by-step strategies to build your social skills. No fluff, no grand greetings, just real talk on how to connect, laugh, and win every social interaction. Let's dive in and turn social awkwardness into your secret superpower. There was a time when I dreaded social events. Imagine being at a party, feeling like your brain is an empty room while everyone else is chatting effortlessly. I'd arrive feeling hopeful, but as soon as the conversation started, my mind would go blank. I used to think that if I had the best facts or clever jokes, people would automatically warm up to me. But more often than not, my attempts came off as forced or awkward, almost like I was trying too hard. I vividly remember one disastrous night where I tried to impress a group at a friend's gathering with a story I thought was hilarious. Instead, my punchline fell flat, and all I got was a room full of polite smiles and a dreaded silence afterward. One incident still sticks with me. I was invited to a work event where I spent half the evening scrolling my phone while others mingled. When I finally tried to join the conversation, my comments were so off-key that I ended up apologizing and retreating to a quiet corner. It was in that moment I realized that being social isn't just about having the right words. It's about truly engaging with others, listening, and showing empathy. Social mishaps like confusing people's names or awkward silences felt like personal failures. Yet every embarrassing moment taught me something valuable. I learned that it's natural to stumble and that every misstep is actually a chance to grow. If only you can laugh at yourself. The secret isn't in being perfect. It's in embracing your quirks, asking genuine questions, and letting your personality shine through. In this journey, I discovered that small adjustments in how I approach conversations transform my interactions from stressful battles into lighthearted exchanges. The truth is, most of us struggle socially because we focus too much on winning every conversation. We're so worried about saying something wrong that we end up overthinking and missing out on genuine connection. Once I let go of that pressure and started listening more than I talked, something shifted. I began to see each conversation not as a test to be aced, but as a chance to learn something new about another person and about myself. This mindset change was the turning point. I realized that social skills can be developed through practice, consistent habits, and a willingness to show vulnerability. Over time, these failures turned into funny stories that I now share with friends to break the ice at parties. And trust me, once you start laughing at your own awkward moments, you unlock the freedom to be you. And that's when genuine conversations begin. I know it sounds cliche, but let me tell you, the most memorable social interactions are the ones where both sides leave feeling understood and appreciated, even if the exchange wasn't flawless. It's about balancing your need to be right with the desire to connect. In this section, I'll detail how our inner critic and fear of rejection often hold us back, and why acknowledging these feelings is the first step toward being more relaxed and open. Once you know that everyone feels awkward sometimes, you'll start to see your own missteps as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. By the end of this part, you'll have a new perspective on social encounters, the kind that turns every argument or disagreement into a playful, constructive dialogue rather than a battlefield of egos. So, how do you flip the script and start winning every social interaction? It starts with a few simple techniques that, when practiced consistently, can transform even the most tense conversation into a delightful, engaging dialogue. Let me share the strategies that changed my life. These are the tools I now rely on, even if I sometimes hilariously misapply them. First, there's the power of listening. I know everyone says just listen, but here's what I learned. Truly listening means setting aside the urge to immediately jump in with your own story. Imagine a tennis match. If you return every serve too quickly, you never let your opponent dictate the pace. In conversations, let others speak first. Really absorb what they say, and then respond with a thoughtful, well-timed comment. This not only makes you appear wise and understanding, but also gives you the upper hand because you're not reacting impulsively. One technique I swear by is the pause and reflect strategy. Whenever I feel the urge to retort immediately, I take a deep breath, count to 3, and even throw in a little joke. Something like, "Hold on, did I miss the memo on sarcasm 101?" This breaks the tension and allows both sides to recalibrate. It might seem trivial, but that moment of silence can completely change the flow of a conversation. And if you can make the other person laugh, you've already won half the battle. Next, let's talk about reframing. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," try, "I see it differently. Here's another perspective." That subtle shift turns a confrontational debate into a collaborative discussion. I remember one meeting where I used this tactic during a heated debate about project priorities. Instead of the usual friction, a colleague responded, "That's interesting. Tell me more." That single phrase transformed the tension into a brainstorming session that left us both satisfied. Suddenly, arguments didn't feel like battles, but as opportunities to understand and grow. Analogies and stories are like magic in a debate. Our brains naturally connect with narratives. When you explain your point through a relatable story or a clever analogy, it becomes much harder for someone to refute it. Imagine comparing a conversation to planning a road trip. You wouldn't start without a map, right? With that vivid analogy, your argument becomes memorable and persuasive. In one friendly debate about which movie was best, I told a story about planning a ridiculous road trip, and we both ended up laughing and agreeing that the journey was more important than the destination. Accountability is another game changer. It might sound counterintuitive, but admitting when you're wrong or still learning can actually make you more persuasive. I once had a debate where I openly recognized my mistake and explained how I was working to correct it. The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted into applause. Showing vulnerability disarms your opponent and earns respect from everyone listening. It turns an argument from a clash of egos into a shared experience of growth. And then there's humor, the secret ingredient to every great conversation. If you can laugh at yourself and the absurdity of the moment, you turn a potentially tense exchange into a memorable moment of bonding. I recall one argument over the best pizza topping where instead of getting defensive, I joked, "If we argue any longer, we'll both end up watching reruns of our own bad takes." Everyone burst out laughing and the tension evaporated. Humor softens criticism and builds a bridge to mutual understanding. Nonverbal cues matter too. Your tone, posture, and facial expressions can either escalate or diffuse a conflict. Even as a stickman, with expressive eyes and a friendly smile, your body language can make all the difference. Lean forward to show you're engaged, maintain an open posture, and smile when appropriate. Sometimes a well-timed pause speaks louder than words, conveying calm and authority. By integrating these techniques into your everyday interactions, you're not just winning arguments. You're turning disagreements into opportunities for connection. Each strategy, from active listening to humorous reframing, becomes a vital tool in your personal debate toolkit. Over time, that relentless, exhausting battle transforms into a graceful dance, a conversation where both parties share insights and leave with a deeper understanding. Remember, the goal isn't to overpower the other person, it's to create a dialogue where both sides feel heard and valued. When you shift your focus from confrontation to communication, every discussion becomes an avenue for learning and growth, and winning is measured not by victory over others, but by the mutual respect you build along the way. Now that we've unpacked the techniques, let me share some personal stories and additional tips from the trenches of everyday debates. I used to be known as the unstoppable debater, always quick with a retort, always ready to jump in. But there was a time when my arguments burned more bridges than I could count. I recall one incident at work when a trivial debate broke out over whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Instead of escalating, I took a moment to pause, listened intently, and then cracked a joke that diffused the tension. We ended up laughing so hard that we ordered two pizzas, one with pineapple, one without, and called it even. That moment taught me that success in social interactions isn't about having the loudest voice, but about having a heart that listens and a mind that adapts. Another memorable event was at a family dinner where a minor disagreement over tradition morphed into a full-blown debate about the old versus the new. Recognizing the heat of the moment, I admitted, maybe my views are a bit outdated. What do you think? That simple, humble question transformed the heated conversation into an enlightening discussion where everyone felt valued. It struck me how often the best response was simply, I don't know. What do you suggest? A phrase that shifts the focus from conflict to collaboration. I also experimented with what I call the pause effect. In fast-paced discussions, I learned to take a brief, deliberate pause before responding. That moment of silence forced the other side to articulate their thoughts more clearly, and more importantly, gave me time to choose a witty or insightful remark. There was one instance during a debate with a friend when that pause led him to realize his argument wasn't as solid as he thought, and he nodded in agreement. The silence, punctuated by a playful comment, turned a potential spat into a moment of genuine understanding and laughter. Over time, these techniques evolved into a mindset. I stopped viewing every disagreement as a battle to prove I was right and began seeing them as opportunities to learn something new. Whether dealing with a friend, a coworker, or even a stranger, each argument became a chance to refine my perspective. By focusing on building mutual respect and demonstrating genuine curiosity about the other person's view, I discovered that winning an argument isn't about having the final word. It's about turning every conversation into a win-win. One of the best lessons I've learned is to always keep your cool and never let ego take over. A well-placed joke or a sincere, I see your point, can diffuse even the most heated debate. And if you find yourself losing track, just say, hold on, I need a moment to think. That brief pause can change the entire energy of the conversation, creating space for a shift from confrontation to collaboration. Finally, remember that every argument is an opportunity to improve your understanding of the world and yourself. With a touch of humor, a dash of humility, and some practical techniques, even the most intense debate can become a chance to grow. Winning every argument may not always mean proving you're right. It means coming away with deeper insights and stronger relationships. So here's the bottom line. Winning every argument is easier than you think when you shift your focus from fighting to connecting. Embrace the art of the pause, the power of a shared laugh, and the wisdom of truly listening. With these skills, every disagreement becomes less of a battle and more of a stepping stone towards better relationships and a more enlightened you.